All right, guys, Darren from FBA Elite, and welcome back to another video. So one thing that I get asked for quite frequently is a to-do list or a checklist for new Amazon FBA sellers. So I spent the last day or so putting together this checklist, which hopefully will help you as you go through your Amazon FBA journey. So this checklist is actually based on the FBA Elite course. So the checklist is based on what I've done previously for myself and what my students are doing at the moment. So let's jump straight into the checklist, as this is going to be quite a long video as there are a lot of things to run through. You'll be able to download this checklist at the end of the video, so stick around for that to find out where you can actually download this from. It will be in PDF format, so you can print it out and just use it for your own Amazon business. So the first thing I want you to do when starting an Amazon FBA business is research, research, research. You want to know as much information about Amazon FBA as possible before you commit financially to this business. Now, when I started, I used YouTube to learn pretty much everything that I learned at that stage. You've also got the Amazon Seller University, which is free. And of course, now you've got the FBA Elite forums, which are also free, and the course as well. The next thing I want you to do is to be aware of Amazon's program policies, or their terms of service, or TOS, as you may hear them be called elsewhere. It's very important you understand these, as it's very easy to get your account or your product suspended or banned from Amazon. So be aware of these early on so you can stick within the rules as you start your FBA business. The next thing that I want you to do is to find a suitable business address for your business. So this could be a virtual office. For me, I use a local business center, but avoid using your home address. You don't want your home address published on Amazon or on Companies House so that people can find out where you live if they look up your business. The next thing I want you to do is then actually to set up your limited company. Now, some people may prefer to hold off doing this until they've actually found a product they want to sell, and that applies to this entire list. This is just the way I recommend to do things. However, if you want to switch the order up to suit within your own preferences, that's absolutely fine. So set up your limited business, and I've put in there, this does not need to match your brand name. So the brand name that you end up using for your product does not have to match your limited company, so you don't need to waste too much time thinking about the company name for your business. Once that's in place, I want you to open your business bank account. If it goes straightforward, this can be done within a day. Sometimes it can take longer. I've just opened another business bank account. I opened it with Monzo. It went through seamlessly. So Monzo would definitely worth checking out. A lot of people were having success with Starling as well, and also people using Revolut. But Starling seems to be the main one people are going for. They didn't want to work with me for some reason, but Monzo were absolutely fine. I then want you to actually open your Amazon seller account. So before you financially commit to anything, make sure Amazon are actually going to allow you to open an account with them. Once you've done that, calculate your overall budget. You need to be honest with yourself about how much money you've got to invest into this business, as that will help decide which products are right for you. So once you've got your budget, you can then develop your product research criteria. And I've got videos throughout the channel talking about product research criteria. I'll probably link to some in the description as well. Now, once you've got your product research criteria, you're pretty much ready to start your product research and finding your first product. Before you do that, I would recommend signing up with Helium 10. That is the product research software that I've used, and I've used since day one alongside Jungle Scout in the early days, but nowadays I just use Helium 10, and there's some discount codes you can use there if you want to get a monthly discount, or if you just want to use it in the short term, you can get 50% off with FBA Elite 50 off the first month of your Helium 10 subscription. So once you've got the tools you need, we're going to use X-Ray from Helium 10. So that is the Chrome extension plugin, and that is what you will use to do your product research, to get your sales estimates and to analyze the niches to help you find the product that is right for you and your individual goals. Once you've found that product, you then need to verify that product is actually viable. So we're going to do things such as the 999 manual tracking to make sure the sales figures actually match up to the estimates we are seeing. You want to check the product for any seasonality issues, check the profitability of the product, check for any Amazon restrictions, and also check for any existing trademarks or patents which could impact you selling that product. Once all of that is clear, we then need to look at product development and differentiation. So how will your product stand out? So that is the first page of the checklist. I'm going through this quite quickly as there are a lot of things to go through, and I don't want this video going on too long. The next thing I want you to do is then to choose your brand name. So once you know the product you're planning to sell, that will help, and you'll be able to choose your brand name. Then design your logo based on your brand name. And once you've done that, you can register a domain name and set up an email address if you want to, but that is optional. You don't necessarily have to do that. I do it for my business, and I actually use a Gmail. So I set up a folder from basically sales@mycompanyname.com, and that goes to my Gmail address, but you're completely free to do that whichever way you want to do it. Now, once you've done that, I would recommend applying for a trademark. You want to apply for a trademark as early as possible. So as soon as you know your brand name and you know that you're definitely going to proceed with this business, apply for your trademark, as that will offer additional protections later down the line. And I'll come back to that later on in this video. The next thing is to then contact suppliers via Alibaba. So you're going to find someone who actually can manufacture and supply this product to you. The main things you're trying to establish are the cost of the product, what are the MOQ, so the minimum order quantities, can the customizations that you have in mind based on the differentiation that we discussed previously, can they be made to the product, and what are the lead times like as well. At this point, you can also start contacting freight forwarders and 3PLs. I'd also recommend rechecking profitability at this stage once you have accurate shipping estimates. So 3PLs are the people you'll use once your products are imported into the UK. They'll go to a 3PL warehouse, and then you can drip feed that inventory into the Amazon fulfillment centers. Now, if you're only bringing in a small batch of inventory, you may not need a 3PL, so that is optional, but be aware of your limits, and we'll come back to that again later on in this video. After that, I then want you to order some samples from your suppliers and from existing competitors on Amazon. So I usually start on Amazon, I'll order some of the existing listings, get those in hands, see what the issues are, see how I can improve them. Then when I start contacting suppliers and getting their samples, I can already start making changes for those first round of samples arrive. So that will save you a lot of time and money by getting some initial competitor products to analyze before you order your first samples. Now, once those samples arrive, you can test them fully, including against each other and against the existing competitors, to see how those samples stack up. So the sample process is very important. Make sure you do not skimp on this part of the process. And then once you're happy with everything, get a final sample to your exact specification from the chosen supplier that you've chosen based on going through the sample process, where you'll probably eliminate a couple of suppliers based on the quality of their product. And when you're ready to place your order, what you want to do is then negotiate with supplier. I hold off negotiating until this point, as once you've actually ordered samples and you're ready to place an order, the supplier will take you much more seriously than if you try to negotiate in your first couple of emails. So this is the point I will negotiate with the supplier. But before I actually place the bulk order, there are a couple of other things I would recommend. Firstly is to order your GS1 barcodes, because you're going to need this to create your product listing on Amazon. If you don't want to go the GS1 barcode route, you can go and apply for a GTI and exemption instead. And then I want you to do some basic keyword research. So use something like Cerebro or Magnet from Helium 10 to do some keyword research. Now, with the barcode and the keyword research in place, you can then create your basic product listing. Now, you want to use the main keywords that you're going to be using long term in your titles and descriptions, and also choose the most suitable category. Now, the reason you want to do this before placing your bulk order is if there are any issues creating this product and listing on Amazon, you'll be aware before you make a big financial commitment. And that's why I believe it's really important to do it at this stage before you place your bulk order. So if everything goes through okay, you've created your product listing and it's been a few days and you've had no issues, you can then place your bulk order. I'd recommend creating a contract. This can be as simple as a one-page document with lots of bullet points just outlining exactly what you've agreed with your supplier. So all of the materials, thicknesses, dimensions, lead times, anything you've agreed with your supplier, even if it's in a message, make sure it's in that contract. If it's not in the contract, they're under no obligation to actually provide it. Then once you're happy, pay the deposit, which will usually be 30% of the overall cost. Your supplier will then begin production of your products. So download your FNSKU. So go to your product listing on Seller Central, download your FNSKU, which is your product barcode, and send that to your supplier, as they'll put that product barcode on every single product. You're also going to do your packaging at this point as well. So there's something to keep in mind when going through the sample process. Get your supplier to send them some examples of the packaging options they offer as well, because that is a good way of looking at different packaging options. So when you get to this stage, you know exactly what you're going to be doing, and hopefully you'd have agreed this in your contract already. Now, the packaging design itself is something you could do, or you could outsource it to a designer or maybe somewhere like Fiverr.com and get them to do it for you. Then once that design file comes over, send it over to the supplier, and the same applies to your product insert design as well. Optionally, you can arrange a product inspection. I'm starting to recommend this more and more. It is worth spending an extra $100 or $200 to get a product inspection done before your goods leave China, so any issues can be rectified before you pay that 70% settlement balance, and then your inventory leaves China, and then things get much more complicated. So a product inspection is optional, but it is strongly recommended. Now, the next thing you'll probably do around this time is to create your actual shipping plan. So you'll go into Seller Central, you'll create your shipping plan, and then you'll be issued with carton labels and, if necessary, pallet labels as well, which you'll send to your supplier and or your freight forwarder, depending on the setup you're using. then finalize the shipping. So if you are using a freight forwarder, put them in direct contact with your supplier so they can arrange for that shipment to be collected from the factory. Then finally, pay the balance of the bulk order. So when your freight forwarder goes to collect the products, your supplier will actually release them. Now, when the import is taking place, depending on what method you're using, but most of us will be importing by sea with FOB terms. So you will need an EORI registration number, and you can register that once the import is actually in action. So once the shipment has left China and it's on its way, at that point you can do your EORI registration. Now, I know I've just used a load of terms which may not make any sense to new sellers, but this is all covered in the course if that is something that would be of interest to you. Also, when your shipment is on the way, once you've got your final sample, which is one of the reasons we get the final sample, you can start doing things such as the professional photography. So I wouldn't recommend doing this yourself unless you're very, very comfortable with product photography. I would hire a professional, as the photography is so important to your product listing and the success of your Amazon FBA product. You may also want to consider a 3D render depending on the type of product that you're selling. And this is at the point you'd want to do additional keyword research so that you can complete your product listing. So you can take what you've done previously and you can finish it off. So you can do full advanced keyword research and use something like scribbles from Helium 10 to actually put the listing together properly. And again, I've covered that in previous videos, how that works. So once the shipment arrives at the UK ports, or a few days before it arrives, you'll get contacted by your freight forwarder. At that point, you pay the shipping fee, any customs and VAT on that shipment. You then have to arrange your first shipment from the 3PL to Amazon, unless of course you're shipping directly from China to Amazon. You've only got a small batch of inventory, but most of us will be using a 3PL, so you need to arrange a delivery from your 3PL once the goods have arrived to go to the Amazon fulfillment center. Before you do that, make sure you check your IPI, which is Inventory Performance Index, and your restock limits to make sure you're sending a batch small enough that will go under those limits and you won't have any issues when it arrives at the Amazon fulfillment centers. So while the inventory is on its way, you can start to set up your PPC campaign. So these are what you're going to use to help launch your product on Amazon and generate those first few sales. So we're going to go through the product launch phase. And also, once you've sold a few products via PPC, I'd also recommend arranging your first 5-star review. Now, that is technically against terms of service, but I cover in the course how to do that as safely as possible. But you want to arrange a 5-star review, ideally with some photos, as usually the first reviews, especially ones with photos, will get voted most helpful. So going forward, any other reviews that come in should be listed below that review. So your first 5-star review is really important. Don't go and use all of your friends and families for this one product because you might want to use them for additional products, but just arrange one review for your launch period. You want to track your ranks to see how well your launch is actually responding to the PPC. So you're using PPC to generate sales, and if sales go well, your organic ranks should start to increase, and hopefully in time you can reduce your PPC. So this is part of the launch process. So you need to track your organic ranks. I use Keyword Tracker from Helium 10 to do that, and also monitor your listing. So I use alerts from Helium 10. So if someone hijacks my listing or makes any unauthorized changes, I get an alert straight away and I can act upon that. Other things you'll need to do as a brand new seller is to declare your VAT exemption status. This is so you can opt in to automatic business invoicing, which is really helpful to avoid going over the IDR, which is the invoice defect rate. So Amazon have recently introduced this, that all sellers must provide an invoice to business customers within 24 hours of purchase. So you need to be aware of this, and by opting in and declaring your VAT exemption status as a new seller, they will take care of this for you and you won't have any issues with the IDR. You also want to set up automatic unfulfillable inventory removal or disposal. So any returns that come back that may be damaged and can't be resold, or maybe if Amazon have damaged some of your stock whilst in the warehouse, what do you want to happen to that? Because you can't just leave unfulfillable inventory sat within their fulfillment center. So you can set that up and get that automatically disposed of or removed maybe once a week or every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks, whatever you'd prefer to do. At this point, you're probably a couple of weeks into your launch and you're getting an idea of how your product is selling. If things are going well, you may want to consider ordering your second batch of inventory at this stage, so that once your first batch is sold through, hopefully you won't be out of stock for too long, or if things go really well, you'll be able to avoid going out of stock entirely. But usually on the first batch, if things do go well, you would expect to go out of stock and have to do a small relaunch when that second batch of inventory does arrive. Now at this stage, it's probably been a few months since you applied for the trademark, so hopefully if that's been granted, you can then apply for brand registry, as that brings some additional benefits such as being able to kick hijackers off your product listing, which is very, very important. It also allows you to create sponsored video ads, PPC, which I've seen as the most powerful PPC campaigns that I have ever been involved with. So definitely, as soon as you've got brand registry, try out sponsored video ads, as they should outperform the traditional ads that you set up for your product launch. Now, if things do go smoothly with your trademark application, or it takes a bit of time to actually do the rest of setting up your business, if brand registry is approved and you can use sponsored video ads to actually launch your product, that is a very good place to be. But usually our product will be launched before our trademark's actually granted. But I've just put it in here so you're aware of this. Next up, we can then add A+ content. As being brand registry, that is another benefit that brings. So that is an additional content on your listing, which helps your product stand out over the other listings. At this point, you may want to consider business insurance. I'd usually recommend taking this out probably the day you actually start selling on Amazon. So the day you start selling your first products, take out business insurance to protect yourself against any liability in case someone managed to hurt themselves or someone else with your product. And then finally, you want to get yourself an accountant. So in the early days, just keep all records of all transactions that take place. But once you've actually signed up with an accountant, they'll need those records to get everything up to date. And also, I'd recommend using Link My Books. So Link My Books acts as a middleman piece of software between Amazon and the accounting software that you choose. So for me, I use Xero as my accounting software, but the reports Amazon generate aren't very useful for anyone really. So by using Link My Books, it takes that information from Amazon and puts it into usable format for something like Xero. So it's a very important connection. I'd strongly recommend that to anyone that is working with Amazon FBA. So that is my Amazon FBA checklist. We've got some resources and discounts here. These will also be on the PDF, but let me take you over to the website where you can actually download this checklist from. So here we are on FBAelite.com. This site is completely free to download the resources from. All you need to do is sign up. It's literally just an email address and password. We don't ask for any other details. And once you're signed up, you get full access to the FBA Elite forums. We've got over 3,500 members on here now. You also get access to the resources section. So we've got lots of other Amazon FBA resources, which you guys should find useful. But you can see I've just added it here today. We've got the Ultimate Amazon FBA Checklist. If you click on here, in the top right corner, choose the download button, and then you'll get this PDF, which you can download, and you can tick these boxes as you go through your Amazon FBA journey. And the resources, like we just showed you on the presentation, are on here as well. So you've got a direct link to the course. You've got the Helium 10 discount codes. Hopefully you'll already be a member of the FBA Elite forums if you've downloaded this PDF. We've got a link to Link My Books there, and also a shortcut link in case you're not already subscribed to the channel. And if you found this video useful, I'd really appreciate it if you could take one moment to scroll down and hit that like button. It makes a big, big difference to the video and the YouTube algorithm. If you want to see more from me, subscribe to the channel. And if you're not already signed up, sign up at FBAelite.com. I'm on there most days, and I'll see you guys on the forums.